Hi, this is Chief Education Officer Bill Olson, and welcome to another brief school district update. Well, this particular segment is being filmed almost in the middle of December, and that means one thing for us. It is budget season. We have been consumed for the last several weeks with devoting our attention to putting together a budget that we feel meets the needs, not all of the needs, but what we think is financially viable for the taxpayer, putting together a budget that meets as many of our students' needs as possible. You know, as taxpayers, and I'm one also, we always say, well, why is the budget increasing or decreasing or remaining the same? Well, budgets oftentimes don't remain the same. Oftentimes they do increase, particularly in the public sector, where we are required to collectively bargain for salaries and wages and benefits. That's a statutory requirement, that there are lots of costs that are associated with educating children. And the complexity is trying to provide programs, services, instruction that meet the needs of every student. As we've said before, in this country, we are responsible for educating every child. And that is what makes America so special. It doesn't happen like this in other countries. But we have a responsibility to every child. And here's the complexity of it. You know, back about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I put together with our central office team a PowerPoint presentation to give the school board and the budget committee a little bit of an overview of where we are and where we're going. And I always like to include a quote in the budget documents that I present by Dr. Thomas Armstrong, who has been a noted author and lecturer around the nation. And he captures the difficulty and the complexity of budgeting to meet the needs of students in this following quote: that budgeting to meet the needs of a school district and to meet the needs of the student is the quantification of developing the means and capacity to facilitate human development with respect to each student's particular style and rate of learning, as well as their appreciation for the varied interests, aspirations, capacities, obstacles, temperaments, and backgrounds that serve as a framework within each child. You know, those of us who have multiple children in our family will sometimes say, boy, this particular child is different from this one. And that's the reality of life. We are all wired differently, and we're all different, which essentially, if you think about it, makes us all the same, because we are all different and unique. And that's what brings innovation, advancement, collaboration, communication, not only to families, but to states, regions, nations, and internationally. We're developing students in this school district, as well as every other school district who has the same responsibility. We're developing students who will be able to navigate and adjust and adapt to changing conditions, not only in Merrimack, not only in New Hampshire, not only in New England, not only in the United States, but to global changes. And that's extraordinarily important. We take our mission to our students and to you, the taxpayer, extraordinarily seriously. Well, when we develop the budget, and I'm sorry that this is going to be a little bit of a budget program, because I want you to know what goes into the development of all of those numbers. There's about 800 pages of numbers, but each one of those numbers represents a staff member or a program or a service that is intended to benefit a child. And in this case, once again, I say every child in the district. So what do we use for data, for sources of information? Well, we developed a strategic plan, a 3-year strategic plan last year, which will last us through 2027. We had a very, very valuable and productive goal-setting session with the school board again in June. This past June involved the central office leadership team and the school board. We had a facilitator who did an excellent job in keeping us focused and facilitating the discussion, which was a very, very valuable discussion about what the needs are of children, what we're doing a good job at in terms of meeting those needs, but also being very honest in terms of assessing where we need to improve, because every organization, public sector or private sector, needs to continuously improve. We look at assessment data. We look at the state assessment scores and local assessment data. We have listening sessions with the staff in every school. We send out an invitation to every school that the staff are welcome. We have a specific date each year that is set up for each respective school, and we meet with those staff who want to come, and nothing is mandatory, it's voluntary. We generally have very good participation, and our role there is to listen to our educators, because they are up close and personal with our students each and every school day. They know what's working, they know what needs to be improved. They know what the students' needs are, not only academically, but emotionally and socially. As we know, that's been a very important component of child development for a number of years. So those listening sessions are very, very valuable. We had the NEASC, the New England Association of Schools and Colleges accreditation study that was done last year, and we had some recommendations from that study. A group of staff and community members put together a vision of a learner and a vision of a graduate. What does it look like for our student, each and every student, each year as they progress and work their way towards graduation? We have to always be cognizant of and address those mandates that are both federal and state in nature. One of the big difficulties in terms of school budgeting in every state across the country, including New Hampshire, is meeting those statutory mandates passed by legislators, but don't necessarily come accompanied by more funding. So there tends to be more and more and more requirements of public school systems, not only in New Hampshire, but throughout New England and throughout the country. But oftentimes, those requirements, those mandates, are not commensurately addressed with funding. So that's a struggle, and so that means the greater burden of taxation falls on the local homeowner, which sometimes can be extraordinarily difficult, and we understand that. So we try to be as careful and as methodical in putting a budget together that not only represents students exceedingly well, but represents you as the people who are primarily funding the education system in Merrimack. We want to serve you extremely well also, give you a very good and a very strong return on the money that you have invested. We need to make sure that, talk about mandates, that we meet national and local and state academic standards and curriculum standards. And we do an ongoing analysis of operations. You know, sometimes people think that, well, they just take last year's budget and they just randomly increase it. That's not the case. What we do first and foremost is we take a look at our operations, everything, all the programs, all the services, and we have a lot of conversations on, do we need that particular program or service? Can it be done in another manner, more efficiently, more effectively? So we don't just take and roll everything over from one year to the next. Sometimes we do in a number of areas in our school district, but we look carefully at reviewing all the current programs and services to see if we can effect some savings and some efficiencies, because that saves you money as a taxpayer, but it also is in the best interest of our students. So we look at, once again, all the assessment data. We look at what's working, what might need to be improved, and how to improve it. We look at both current and projected student enrollment. What we do is we use what's called a 7-year, for years and years and years, it's been called the cohort survival ratio. We prefer to call it the cohort progression ratio. The number of children in each grade who progress on to the next grade. In other words, if 250 first graders progress to 250 second graders, that cohort projection ratio is 1.0. So we take a look at a 7-year average. We don't go back more than that because we want to maintain a focus on what's happening locally in terms of development, in-migration, out-migration, the age of and the demographic analysis of the population, what's happening, as I said, with new development, but also what's happening in existing housing units where we have people of my age who are aging and sometimes selling their property to move on to something smaller, less maintenance intensive, and their homes are reoccupied for the most part by young families with school-age children. So we spend a lot of time looking at enrollment analysis because it's never quite precise, but demographics and the study of demographics has shown that even though it's not entirely predictable, in other words, the enrollment from one year to the next, over the longer period of time, it does tend to be cyclical in nature. So I've always been an interesting student of demographic analysis, always will be as long as I'm in this profession, because it's very important to understand how many students we have and what's the distribution of those students and what is the cost impact of either an increase or a decrease in enrollment. We want to maintain reasonable class sizes also. You know, when some of us were in school, we had 30 students in our classes. Well, this is a day and age where that doesn't work any longer. Teachers absolutely need to understand children more carefully than ever before. We have students, and this is not an issue unique to Merrimack, it's all across the country. Students coming to public schools and institutions of even higher education, for that fact, also, who are sometimes displaying aberrant behavior, great amount of stress and anxiety because of what's going on around all of us every single day in our lives. Not directly or specifically attributable to school district. It's all of the pressures, all of the fast-paced changes that are occurring each and every day that we need to sort of recalibrate and adjust and adapt. We review our transportation needs to make sure that we are providing transportation as efficiently as possible. You know, our elementary buses, middle school buses tend to be quite full. High school buses sometimes less full because as they progress out of sophomore year into junior year, oftentimes students like to drive to school and take a friend or friends with them. So we take a careful look at what is our load, what is our capacity, what do the routes look like, what is the mileage that our buses are required to travel, and we try to make sure that we don't have more buses than we need. We need to do the daily runs. We need to do after-school buses. We need to do athletic buses also that oftentimes will run at the same time as the regular route buses in the afternoon. So there's a lot to think about when it comes to school transportation. We need to make sure that we are always in compliance with the Individuals with Disabilities Act, the IDEA statute. That is one that requires us to provide special education services to students with disabilities, requires us to make accommodations for students who have sometimes a struggle in performing one of life's basic functions. In that case, some students, and even a staff member or two occasionally, will require what's called a 504 accommodation. Some change in their routine, some change in the process, whether it's time, whether it's seating, whether it's a carpet for back issues with a staff member. That doesn't happen very often, but once in a great while something like that happens. Perhaps a child has respiratory issues that require some sort of filtration device or an air conditioning, because that's a reality of every school district in the country. We want to make sure also that we provide a robust, rigorous, and relevant curriculum. You know, when I started here, I want to be honest with you, our curriculum was aging. And when a year later, a year after I started, our outstanding Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Amy Doyle, was hired. She asked me what my priorities were, and I said, I'll give you three: curriculum, curriculum, and curriculum. We need and have needed to update and improve our curriculum to make sure that it is reflecting modern day standards, modern day information. No school system can have any curriculum that is 10, 15 years old. That is doing a great disservice to students. We need to make sure that we remain all in with respect to technology. About 30 years ago, I remember telling a school committee in Massachusetts that technology was going to be one of the most rapidly increasing elements of a school budget, because you don't just jump in with 1 foot, it's both feet in, both feet into the lake. And there's no turning back, because that is the nature of the processing of information, of the communication of information in the world, and will continue. What we're doing right now also is looking carefully at how artificial intelligence impacts education, what students do, what staff do also in their collective instructional capacities. We need to make sure also that we provide adequate instructional supplies and materials. That's a school district's obligation by statute. We want to have clean, healthy, and safe facilities. Thinking about this, and this is why I'm mentioning this, these all cost money. We want our students and our staff to be safe every single day coming to school and attending school in healthy facilities. That is our obligation to our children. That is our obligation to you. And we take it extraordinarily seriously, particularly school security. We've done an awful lot. Those are things that we don't talk about in public, because oftentimes in conversations with law enforcement, they will always say, don't say too much, because we don't want the bad guys to know what you've done to help keep kids and staff safe. One of the most important things in developing a school budget is that we need to make sure that we provide competitive compensation, salaries, and benefits. You were good enough a couple of years ago to pass a warrant article to adjust upward our salaries, particularly for teachers, because they were significantly non-competitive with other communities. They are more competitive now. We're not at the top, we're not at the bottom, we're somewhere in mid-range. But what your actions have allowed us to do is hire better quality, top quality teachers, and attract more of those teachers and retain them. You know, sometimes if salaries and benefits are poor in a school district, you'll have someone who'll come in who may not be a top caliber person, but they're looking for a job and you need to hire a person to fill a position, and they'll stay here. And if they work out well, which is wonderful to know, they work out well, what generally happens is sometimes they'll move on 2 and 3 or 4 years into their employment because somebody else is offering more money. And so the competitive nature of salaries and benefits is extraordinarily important, as it is in your own business in the private sector. You know, some school districts, minimize the professional development that are provided to staff members. That is one of the most important parts of increasing the competency and efficiency and overall knowledge and content base of our staff. When I first started here 3.5 years ago, we had no early release days. We have 5 early release days now, because those days are extraordinarily important to allow our staff to learn about new literacy curriculum, new math curriculum, new science curriculum, to obtain training on mandated trainings such as bullying and other trainings such as suicide prevention. Those are all required of school districts. And once again, we take that very seriously, but it needs time. We need time to be able to provide that training. And there's where the school board's support, budget committee support, and your support of our professional development days, particularly our early release days that are interspersed throughout the year, has been crucial to the improvement of our school district. We've done a lot in terms of offering more co-curricular activities for our students. Those are activities where students can pursue their passion, and you combine them with staff who have a passion for that particular area. And that's very, very important. If you've read any of Tony Wagner's, former Harvard professor Tony Wagner's books on creating innovators in our society. Innovators are created by following your passion, people following their passions, and people allowing our students to grow and develop, because you can increase a person's innovative thought. There's a book that was called Creating Innovators by Dyer, Gregerson, and Christensen. Once again, 3 Harvard researchers and professors who have indicated in their book that there are 5 skills that students and staff can work on and be taught to increase the level of innovative thought and creative thought that they possess. And that's extraordinarily important, because our economy, the functioning of our nation within the world, depends greatly on sustained innovation. There was an interesting book by Ted Fishman called China Inc. And throughout that book, the main theme was sustained innovation is absolutely essential for our economic and social development in our country. We work very hard also through our outstanding Assistant Superintendent for Business, Matt Chevernell. Matt is as astute as anyone I've ever worked with in terms of facilities, operations, capital improvements, budgeting, and Matt works diligently to put together an updated 5-year, a rolling 5-year capital plan of capital improvements. Some of our buildings, most of our buildings, are aging in nature. The middle school is the more recent building of about 20 years of age. But some people think that, well, you can open a school and you don't have to do anything for it for 30 years. Well, that is not the case, because lots of electromechanical equipment in those schools, lots of operative equipment such as windows, doors, etc., break because of fatigue, because of wear and tear. And so it's always important to have an updated capital improvement plan. And we also do a very careful analysis of price indexing. I review every so often, a couple times every year, price indexing factors from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which are often published through the Federal Reserve System in our country. Keeping an eye on what the indexing has been, the cost indexing with respect to wages, benefits, insurances, materials, school materials and supplies, and textbooks, school furnishings, in the insurance industry, transportation costs, because we need to know how those costs are either increasing or decreasing. And sometimes some costs do decline, such as in the telecommunications and technology industry, because of excessively strong competition in the marketplace. Well, enough for the budget. I don't mean to bore you with it, but it consumes so much of our work time, not only during the workday, but at home during evenings, nights, and weekends. We're always, always, always thinking about what we need to do to provide better opportunities in the most efficient manner to the children of Merrimack. Shifting gears a little bit, it's the holiday season with a number of holidays. A lot of our schools have been involved with raising funds and donations to help disadvantaged families. Very proud of our schools. Just heard from Thornton's Ferry that they will be helping 27 families. That's only the tip of the iceberg with respect to what this school district does, including our central office. Students this time of year also receive snowballs of good citizenship and school safety that are mounted on a Santa in Thornton's Ferry. They have approximately 80 students coming up after the first of the year who will be participating in 9 co-curricular activities. Once again, those activities allow students to follow and pursue their passion and allow staff members who work with those students to exercise their passion also. To help, it helps them believe in students, but even more importantly, it helps the students believe in themselves, which is extraordinarily important, because whether it's in the classroom, during the school day, or in a co-curricular activity after school, out in the athletic field, in theater arts, our job is to inspire, to motivate, to encourage, to believe in every student and have them believe in themselves. Very, very important. Well, in ending up, it's a very busy time of year. It's a very stressful time of year. We celebrate, many of us celebrate Christmas, many celebrate Hanukkah and Kwanzaa. And with that, I wish those of you who celebrate Christmas a very Merry Christmas. Those who celebrate Hanukkah, a Happy Hanukkah, and those who celebrate Kwanzaa, a Happy Kwanzaa. Enjoy it. Take some time for yourselves also. Bring some balance to your life. Always enjoy talking with you and visiting with you. My door is always open. You're always invited to come in and chat or call or email. And I always look forward to speaking with you. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bill Olson, Chief Education Officer. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Kwanzaa.